This is where our clergy come to play a really vital role. We need to hear consistently from the pulpit the message of generosity. Someone earlier during Michael's presentation said they thought it would be vital to have one sermon every month. I'd love to see that, but I'll take 4 a year. And our parishes, as I said, that consistently do well in stewardship education aim to actually exceed this. They're trying to weave a message of generosity actually throughout the entire year, that somehow it's reflected in the message that is preached week in, week out. One of my most encouraging, I'll say he's a mentor of mine in the Diocese of Toronto, is the current dean of the cathedral in Toronto. His name is Andrew Asbel. Andrew is a terrific preacher, but he's also passionate in talking about stewardship. And he's just moved to the cathedral. He's been there about a year. And I have been talking to a number of members of his congregation, and I said, what do you notice differently about Andrew than you noticed with the previous dean? And they say, he's always talking about generosity. He's not always talking about money, though. But it's really important to hear that message about generosity, about how we as individuals can consistently make an impact in the life and ministry of our parishes. And that doesn't always mean that we have to be giving excessive amounts from our pocketbook. And that message of generosity is really seeing an increase in engagement in the cathedral, and they're seeing an increase in volunteer commitment and involvement. And I think that's really important, and it's obvious to me that the message, the consistent message that people are hearing in the pews from their priest is resonating them and impacting them on a regular basis. I won't distract as well from the fact that in addition to sermons, that the idea of lay witness can be very powerful as well. And this is the role of individuals getting up and giving a testimony of 3 to 5 minutes as to why the life and ministry of this parish is important to what's going on here. When we initiated our Growing Healthy Stewards program in 2013, one of the parishes that we piloted our program in was Grace Church on the Hill. And Grace Church on the Hill came up with what they call Faces of Grace. Faces of Grace is, as I said, it's a 3 to 5 minute infomercial where an individual passionately explains why the life and ministry of the church is important to them, and how it's impacting them in their daily life. When he first started, he had a tough time getting people who were going to come forward. So, being the good soul that Andrew is, he became the first one who talked about Faces of Grace. And then he was able to get somebody else on board. If you go to the Grace Church on the Hill website, you will now find 44 testimonies of people who now want to come forward and talk about why the church is important in their life. It's snowballed, and that's such a profound example of when we invite people to share with us their stories, they want to tell us. They might need a little bit of a nudge, as Andy Duncanson, the chair at Grace Church on the Hill, found, but now he has no trouble getting people who want to come forward and talk about why their church is important to their life and ministry. Annual narrative budgets are absolutely essential and vital to the work that we do. And this doesn't take away from the financial budget that we're all required to present at vestry, but the narrative budget allows us to demonstrate how giving through the church supports ministry. I think it's really important that we tell people that we don't talk about money in the life and ministry of the church. We don't talk about it in the context of it simply going to some sort of black hole. It's actually, we talk about money within the context of doing ministry, and a narrative budget allows us to do that. Can I have a show of hands here just from the group of parishes that actually do narrative budgets on a regular basis? Okay, a few. Now, the benefit, I wish I'd seen a few more, but the benefit of doing that narrative budget is that it eliminates the line item nature that we typically see in a normal spreadsheet, and it isolates our understanding of what's taking place in the parish, usually around 4 or 5 different program areas, including outreach, pastoral work, community outreach. It may include the actual planning of the service itself. What you won't find in a narrative budget is the word administration, because the work and ministry that the staff are doing in the parish is spread over those program areas. So what we want to do in a narrative budget is to actually drill down into what's taking place in our parishes. And our narrative budgets used in addition to the pledging initiative that you'll do in your parish, they're very powerful together. And the narrative budget can also be used as a vital tool to help introduce newcomers to what's taking place in terms of the life of your parish. I will say this, the diocese in the country that does a most amazing job of developing resources on narrative budgets is Niagara. If you go to their website, they actually provide all the templates you need to be able to create the narrative budget program. Every year I go on to the website and I search for parishes that have done narrative budgets, and I'm amazed at the creativity that arises as a result of this exercise. They don't need to be flashy. They don't need to be made with the very best papers. They can be modestly prepared, and most parishes should be able to produce them using their own hardware within their own offices. It's not difficult to do. The narrative budget adds credibility to the work that's going on in the parish, and when members see that the ministries, when members are able to see the profound work that's taking place in parishes, it often helps increase our offertories. It's amazing, even of our smaller parishes, when they are able to see how much time and energy goes into preparing Sunday Eucharistic activities, whether that means the work that the sides people are doing, the amount of hours that are being put in by our choirs, what it takes to prepare the liturgical space, to prepare the readings, to prepare the prayers of the people, the work that's done by other people who are involved in our congregation. Typically what we find from a volunteer perspective, that for every single paid full-time person there is in a staff, there is the equivalent of 5 full-time volunteers working in a parish. You'll see that sort of imagery come through when you prepare a narrative budget, because what we're doing is we want to show 3 things. The narrative budget wants to show you the true cost of what it costs to do ministry. It wants to show you the breadth of ministry that's taking place there, but it also wants to indicate the volunteer hours that are required to provide ministry. And it's a very powerful statement to newcomers and to members of a congregation about the breadth of ministry that's taking place in a parish.